Jeff. All right. Thank y'all for being here. And as more folks join, I'll let them in. But in the interest of time, I want to go ahead and get started. So today, this is the monthly STEAM webinar series, and today we've invited Ms. Kayla Cullum-Michael to present. As we get started, a couple of reminders. So first, what our network is a program to support scholars who are conducting or interested in conducting cancer health disparities or cancer research throughout the Southwest and beyond, of course, but we are located in the Southwest of the U.S. And so currently the institutions included are Burrell College of Osteopathic Medicine, New Mexico State University, Northern Arizona University, UNM, Comprehensive Cancer Center, and most recently, we are excited to announce that we are also bringing on the University of Arizona. So they will be joining us as formal partner in the coming months. So for today, though, we will be recording the webinar, and then following the webinar, please be sure to look for the evaluation. It helps us with our programming and planning. And so that is all I will share for now. I am going to start recording, if I know how to do that. Go ahead. Oh, it is already recording. Sorry. Okay. My gosh. So let's go ahead and get started. So, before Kayla, as you're getting your slides set up, I will go ahead and introduce you. So she's an academic advisor and so she saw firsthand how powerful social media platforms were for connecting students. And so she has her own business and is going to be talking about social media secrets for job searching for us. So go ahead and take it away, Kayla. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. We're going to get this going. Okay. Thank you so much for the invite, and thank you all for coming today. Again, my name is Kayla Cullum-Michael. Cullum is my maiden name because I never had a middle name, and you just can't get rid of your maiden name when you're a woman, so it's now my middle name. And Michael is my new last name. I was an academic advisor at Johns Hopkins and the University of Maryland for pre-med students for the last 6 or 7 years, and recently made a complete career switch into communications and marketing here at Johns Hopkins, as well as starting my own business in social media management for small businesses. So I can speak a little bit of your language just from my past life in pre-med advising. So I tried to tailor that a little bit to some of the examples that I'll give today. But today we're talking about everything on social media beyond LinkedIn. I know you had a presentation specifically on LinkedIn and how to utilize that platform for job searching and maybe building your personal brand. So we're not going to do that today. We're not going to talk about LinkedIn. We're going to talk about all the other ones. So who is KCM? Those are my initials. I am Baltimore born and raised. I went to Salisbury University for my undergrad and then did my master's at Ball State in the Midwest. Came back to Baltimore to start a family and continue my higher ed nerd journey through all the various jobs that I've had within the universities around here. I love Bravo. If anyone watches Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, that's my favorite. I am currently 9 months pregnant, so we have about 3-ish weeks to go before we have a new little nugget hanging out in our house. I have 2 hound dogs, so if you hear them in the background today, I apologize, but I am in the farthest corner of my house. So hopefully that's not a problem.
I did want to say if you're moving slides, I can't see them.
Oh,
yeah. So
thank you.
Yeah. Sorry for interrupting.
It says my screen sharing is paused, so we're going to try this again. Did you see the first slide?
So there we go.
Okay. You know what? We're just going to stay right here so everybody can see all the things. It's not working out for me today. Okay, thank you so much for that. So we're gonna keep moving on. Okay, so moving into the kind of meat and potatoes of what I'm going to be talking a little bit about today. Um, I grew up in the age of like Facebook and Instagram were just becoming a thing when I was a freshman in college. And I was a part of Greek life in my collegiate career. And something I'll never forget is older Greek people constantly watching everything that we were posting, right? As a young adult in college and having, no holds backs when you're posting on social media, which is very new back then. Um, they really harped on like you will be Googled. Social media can and will be used against you in the job search. And I don't think that that's necessarily changed. So, not to scare people from posting on social media, but really thinking about social media as a way to enhance your personal brand. So, you are being Googled just like you are Googling everybody else, right? We find people on LinkedIn. We want to know more about their job. We want to know maybe more about papers and things that they've published. So, we Google them. And what we find can be interesting or it can be alarming. So today is just going to be how are you finding yourself on Google? What are you finding about yourself? And if you're finding it, so are other people. Um, and how we can kind of curate your narrative so that you are curating it and the internet isn't doing it for you. I'm going to be referencing a lot about a personal brand. And I think this can sound very lofty and like, oh God, like I have to become an influencer. And that is not the case at all. Your personal brand is just your digital reputation, right? You're going to be submitting resumes and cover letters, but on top of that, again, you're going to be Googled. So, what is your digital reputation in conjunction with that resume showing? And how are you talking about the things on your resume when you aren't just talking about it on your resume? LinkedIn, for example, but also, again, we're going to talk about Instagram, we'll talk about TikTok, Twitter, Medium, all of those platforms. So, what is a personal brand? So, the definition of a personal brand is your reputation and how you present yourself across various platforms and how it influences others' perception of you and your capabilities. So, for example, I preach about personal brand, but I struggle to maybe post about myself as often as I should, especially as someone whose personal brand is a social media management company, right? I run 7 different accounts, so finding time to post on my own business account seems a little daunting at times. So I am a professional in this realm, but I also struggle with this. So if this seems daunting to you, trust me, like you are not alone. So we're gonna go through some smaller steps throughout this next hour or so to make this seem not as daunting and not like I have to create a whole separate brand online for myself. I have to like formulate these thoughts. I have to create a content calendar. You don't have to do any of that. But there are some things that we want to do to make this seem a lot smaller in nature and little things that you can do over time to make big impacts. So some things to consider is your skills, your values, your personality, and your consistency in messaging. They're going to help shape your narrative to convey to your audience. And I think something that is and might make this a little bit easier is that it's not just professional, right? Um, Personally, I think a mistake that I made in my business was creating a separate business Instagram for that. And I think, it made twice the amount of work because I already had a following on my personal Instagram, right? Or my personal TikTok or my personal Facebook. And I wanted to have a business account because, I thought that was what I needed to do. And after almost 2 years of building this brand and having this business and these roles, I've learned that I am my business, right? Not just KCM Social, Instagram.com. It's Kayla Cullen Michael is my business, is my brand. So um take it from me and my mistakes, like people are following people, they're not following companies, right? So of course we follow brands because we like their products and we like their messaging and we want to purchase things from them, but you also are following maybe influencers or specific researchers or past physicians or employers or bosses that you connected with on a personal level because you like what they represent, you like how they message, their personality and their skills. So it's not just professional, it's not just needing business accounts or a separate account just for your research. It's you. Um, you can share as little or you can share as much about your personal life on these same accounts that you want. This was again something that I had to discuss with my husband and my family because, again, social media management is showing behind the scenes of my life, and that includes my house. But there's a safety issue that comes with that, right? So just little things like that, that maybe doesn't affect how you are conveying your brand as a researcher, but other things to consider. Okay, so let's take a minute, pause, and let's do a little activity. So think about how you want to be perceived, right? Your personal brand online. What are three words that you would like people to associate with you for your branding efforts? And I'll give you like 45 seconds. And maybe words might be a little tricky. Maybe it's phrases. Maybe it's three phrases that you would like people to associate with you. Okay. We're going to keep those in our back pocket and we're going to come back to them later. All right, we're going to move into the platforms that matter. So I'm not going to touch on LinkedIn. I think we all kind of know how LinkedIn is used and how LinkedIn has completely just taken off over the last year as a professional network platform. But what we don't often think about is the more social media types of platforms that can really help us transform our brand or find positions and openings and people that can we can connect with to extend our reach in our job search. So Instagram being probably one of the biggest. Reels and carousels, if you are not familiar with those terms. So reels are your short form videos, and then carousels are the posts that you swipe, right? There's like 10 pictures or top five facts of tomato gardening or something. I love gardening. But so those are the two top performing types of content on Instagram. And a little bit later in the presentation, I'll talk about how you can take advantage of those types of content and maybe give you some examples of ways to make your own carousels to highlight your research or why you would even want to do that in the first place. But those are the two highest performing types of content on Instagram that you would want to know in order to showcase your projects or your personal brand and really make an impact. TikTok is very similar to Instagram, but also very different. It's a little bit more unhinged maybe and unpolished, but is still extremely effective. And the reach of TikTok is exponential compared to Instagram, right? So on TikTok, you're gonna want to share maybe shorter clips or maybe like funny little ha-has about research that only researchers would understand, right? And you can certainly translate them to Instagram as well, But TikTok is kind of like the playground, right? It's the let's try, let's see if this works a little bit. And then if it performs really well, we move it to Instagram and make it more of a strategy kind of thing. X or Twitter, as still people call it, are very much thoughts and very much written word, written short word, I guess, about certain things that are going on. X is still really popular in the higher ed and research medicine space. I know there's a lot of researchers who are on there who are posting a lot of their findings or their papers, talking about opportunities that they have coming up. So if you're not on X, no pressure to get on it, but it is really helpful in this type of realm. YouTube again is moving in the space of short form video. They call them shorts, but they're reels. They're, up to 2 minute long videos. But then you also have your traditional YouTube videos, which are a lot longer. Um, we used to, Google used to be the place where we would go to find information, but now it's YouTube and it's TikTok where people are going to find how-to videos or hear it from the experts. They're tuning into these short form video content. So really take advantage of that if you wanted to become an expert or to just showcase what you're doing from a like normal person perspective, right? Like we love authenticity online. So take that, right? Take that and run with it. You are all authentic in your own way, shape, or form, and you all have lived experiences that people want to hear about. So be that expert, be your own expert. And then there's Medium. I don't know if any of you have dabbled in Medium. This is a platform that's really helpful if you have a lot to say, right? And you want to have a lot more written word instead of maybe being in front of the camera. And we can talk about ways where you don't have to be in front of the camera as well, because I know that's very daunting. But Medium is a way to talk about thought leadership in more of a written format. Okay, so some best practices briefly summed up again for each of your platforms. LinkedIn is really great for recruiting and finding posts and jobs right there on the spot. Instagram is more of a way to showcase your projects and your personal brand. Same for TikTok, but it's a little bit more authentic, and maybe not as strategized. And then X is a way to engage with industry and discussions and news. And I would throw threads in there a little bit as well. Something that I want you to keep in mind is you're not just on the job hunt. I want you to join the conversation. So, as I'm talking about these next couple slides, the biggest thing I'm going to hit on is engaging, engaging, engaging. So, LinkedIn included, when you are on these platforms and we're scrolling, I don't call it doom scrolling because not everybody's on the sad side of social media, but when we're scrolling, and you find something that resonates with you and your algorithm is really on point tonight and it's just like really it's just hitting you good. Comment, share on your stories or repost on your Facebook or whatever with comments of like, this is what I do in my work, or wow, I never thought about it this way. Engaging with these people or brands or influencers or researchers who you're following and are really speaking to you in a certain way, they want to know that. Coming from the content creator or social media management side of social media, engagement is the entirety of our jobs, right? The reason why we get certain contracts or we put certain content out onto the internet is because it performs well, and we only know that because of how people engage with it. So, as you are scrolling or as you are finding content that you like, engage, comment, message, DM, share, all of the things. Again, so a little bit more in engaging insightfully, right? So it's not just like sending it to your friend in a DM, like, haha, this is hilarious, but it's engaging insightfully so that those researchers or those students or those brands who maybe you potentially want to work for in the future are paying attention to what you're saying, right? Your name or your account is attached to whatever you might comment or whatever you might share if your profile is public. So commenting insightfully or asking questions about their content, like, I never thought about it like that. How did you come to that conclusion? Or how did you even like think of this topic for your research? Whatever that might be, it just puts your name out there and gets you on their radar the more you do it. Um, it also allows you to find employees through some of these brand accounts. So for instance, McCormick Spice Company is a huge company around here that employs a lot of people in the Baltimore area. Um, and they had a social media manager job opening a couple months ago. So I was able to see the job posting, but then also find the current social media management team for McCormick, which is huge and massive and was difficult to find. But I was able to find the employees' personal Instagram accounts. And they were posting a lot of what McCormick's content that they were making and sharing. So I was engaging with them on there, right? And that just puts a little bit more attention on me, whether I want to or not. And obviously I did. Um, but it was intentional and it was engaging with the right people to continuously get my name out there for that opportunity. It's just another form of networking, right? Engaging with these employees or these brands or these people that you're following is a way to network that we're just not used to, and we don't think about it like that. Okay, so some do's and don'ts, and I think these are all a little subjective, and I'll talk about each one of them. So, being authentic and sharing your true self and values is social media, right? If you think about the brands and the content that you're engaging with, you probably really like someone because they are so real, and they're not so polished or necessarily fake on social media to what we know, right? So continue that and be your authentic selves and share your story, your passions, why you're involved in the certain things that you are researching or how you got to your positions. Um, because people want to hear from real people. Sharing your wins. Again, I think we think of social media as a highlight reel, and it is. Um, and I have another slide next of also why it's important to share our losses. But sharing your wins and highlighting accomplishments from your authentic point of view can really be inspiring and insightful to people who want to be in your shoes in the future. So share your wins, be proud of yourself, don't be afraid to put them out there. The biggest thing that helps drive engagement and put your content in front of other people if you are public is posting consistently and engaging consistently. So um, I'm going to ask you guys to post at least once a month. But the more you are posting and staying visible, the higher your content goes in algorithms, and shows it to more people. And there's a whole other separate strategy about trial reels and things like that. If you want to know from like this social media manager point of view. But just from a building a personal brand, the more you post and the more you are engaged on social media, the better your accounts will do. Engaging thoughtfully. So I touched on this. I'm not going to really harp on this, but interacting with your followers and your peers. So you engage with brands and people, but also engage back with people who are commenting and sharing and liking your content, right? It just helps you seem like a real person and really helps you network with people and just continue to build your platform and build your community. And then curating content, so sharing interesting articles and insights from others. Um, if you want to keep your personal Instagram or personal accounts private and you want to make a Kayla Researcher account, um, then that platform might just be sharing interesting articles or insights or research opportunities or research reels and carousels on your account, right? So does it make sense for you to post about tomato gardening on your research account? Probably not, right? But maybe it's tomato and why lycopene is healthy for us, right? Maybe there's a research aspect to tomatoes, and then you're sharing how you're interested in gardening, right? So there's a way to marry all of your interests and show your personality and your humanistic side just from a research standpoint as well. What to avoid in your online presence. So it says avoid venting, but I think you can vent for certain things. Again, passions are what drive social media and what drive a lot of our content. So if you are passionate about something and you see something that maybe is a bad research article and they just didn't do it correctly, or you would have done it differently, like I think it's okay to vent in certain instances. But again, I think we've all learned over the last couple years, honestly, like we should be aware of our tone and certain things that we say online because that could also be a disadvantage to you in the future. Oversharing, again, I think this is a little subjective, so maintaining boundaries for privacy, that's up to you. What are your boundaries? What are your family's boundaries? What are your employer's boundaries? I know a lot of research, um, is hush hush until it's out there publicly. So just being aware of what you are able to share and sticking to that. Steer clear of ghost profiles. So staying active and relevant. This goes back to engaging and posting consistently. Um, I manage the Life Design Labs at Johns Hopkins University social media accounts, and there's a lot of ghost profiles from students that engage with me. It's just not helpful because I don't know anything about the student that I'm engaging with, right? One of the accounts is like Happy Proton or something, right? It's a smiley face icon. They have no posts. They follow thousands of people. Um, and they're very active with me in messaging, but I don't know if you are a sophomore or a senior or a master's student. I'm not sure if you are even a Johns Hopkins University student at all. If you have interests in certain things, a lot of the messages that they're sending me is, hey, can you just send me the employer's information, right? So, and that's a red flag to me because you're not coming to the events and you're not engaging with us with our events. You are just kind of messaging like, hey, send me this because I want to reach out on my own. So ghost profiles are a red flag, so try not to be one of those. Don't post without a purpose. So ensuring your content aligns with your brand. This kind of goes back to your curation of your content and why you're posting that. That's up to you. And then resisting negativity maybe can go to avoid venting. I don't think everything else always has to be so happy-go-lucky on social media because I think that could get a little fake. So again, that's your call. If you want to be a positive influence online, that's kind of my MO. Um, I think that's great. So sharing your wins and your losses. So yes, highlighting your successes is huge from a job perspective, right? We employers want to know what you did, how well you did it, why you chose to do it, your professional milestones. Congratulations, yay, like you're awesome. But I think it's equally as important to share your losses because think of like your interview questions, right? And how you would interview someone and what you would want to know about how they handle failures or setbacks in their research. again, it humanizes someone and it makes them a little bit more real, and it shows your resilience and your adaptability and ways that you have chose to grow through those experiences. So, yes, absolutely share your wins, but also think about sharing your losses and being real and being authentic with your journey, whatever that might be. By thoughtfully presenting both your achievements and the lessons learned, you craft a narrative that portrays you as confident and capable candidate in the competitive job market. So, again, wins and losses. Okay. So, taking a break, pause real quick for a little quick write. So before I had you write down three words or three phrases that you wanted to define your personal brand as. Now, I want you to pick a platform or two, maybe one that you don't dabble in, and write down ways you could showcase yourself there professionally or personally. If you don't have an account on a specific one. So write down three ways that you can showcase yourself on those platforms. And think about the three words or phrases that you wrote about before. What are ways you can showcase those three specific things on those platforms? And I'll give you like 90 seconds for that. Okay, let's finish up that thought. Alrighty. So we talked about engaging, and now I really kind of want to harp on posting consistently. Um, from the back end of social media management, posting consistently is the best and kind of only way to establish an online presence. I think of it like a business being open or closed, right? So if I want to go to a restaurant and they're really active on their stories, right? On Instagram specifically, they post the specials of the day, they post their hours, they post their happy hour, they have live music that night. I will probably go there compared to some other restaurant who hasn't posted on their Instagram or their Facebook in 2 months, right? Because I don't know what's going on, right? They're not as engaged online. They're not as engaged maybe with their community. And that's just me personally, but I think of social media like, is your business open or is it closed? Specifically with stories and posting consistently. So the more you're posting, and I recommend starting out at least once a month, right? Because if you're not someone who posts a lot on Instagram or really uses social media in that way, it can seem scary. It can seem like a lot of work, but I promise you, the most imperfect content performs so much better than something that you spent 3 hours graphic designing on Canva, right? authentic, be real, and don't feel like you have to be this graphic design wonder to post a carousel of tips and tricks on Instagram. Um, so post consistently, try and do something at least once a month, and as you get into the hang of it, maybe start jotting down notes in your phone or on a piece of paper that's like, oh, that's a good idea. Like I could easily create something on Instagram about how I applied for this grant, right? Or how my experience at this conference, right? Conferences are really easy, low lift to create content about because, it's busy. You're doing a lot at conferences and what you learned in the sessions that you went to. The more you post consistently, the more others are going to interact with you consistently and they're going to want to follow your content. And that's just a way to foster connections and build this online community in a specific industry or maybe multiple industries, right? So posting consistently, engaging consistently, it just continues to build your personal brand. Okay, so now some content ideas. Content is um, what you make of it, but also don't feel like you need to just put up a video of you dancing to a certain song, right? I think that's how content creation originally started with like trends and needing to dance to the latest Tate McRae or whoever the pop person is nowadays. But content is what you want it to be. So I mentioned reels, short-term video content. I mentioned carousels, which are really easy ways to just swipe through tips and tricks or pictures of your research or your latest vacation if you're on your personal account. But there's also other ways to do this. So showcasing your projects, any of your insight and things that you've gained through your experiences and your research. A day in the life. This is a very popular one, very easy to do, but also kind of hard because as you're going through your day, you forget to film. So easy but difficult. And then celebrating your wins. So recognizing and share your accomplishments and your losses with others. Some specific ones. So for a day in the life, think of this like behind the scenes, right? This could be I get up, I brush my teeth, I go to work, I come home, I feed the dog, I work out, I read a book, I watch Dancing with the Stars, and then I do it all over again. Or this could be maybe something on the flip side, right? Things I maybe wish I had time for as a full-time researcher, or what I wouldn't do a day in my life as a medical student, or, think of this day in the life and how can you make it something different? How can you make it something that's a little bit more unique and tailored to you? Skills showcase. So this would be a really good carousel one. So I I use ChatGPT, no shame. So this is some ChatGPT ideas for the STEAM network specifically. So how do I analyze an RNA sequence data, workflow for writing a grant draft? How did I build a network of mentors? Um, and if you're comfortable talking on screen, that might be you talking with some bullet points, text on screen, editing a video, or it could be, again, a carousel of just text on a slide. Um, and like I said, carousels really perform very well. It's very savable and it's very shareable content. So, um, again, think about how you're using social media. I know I see something and I save it all the time. Do I ever go back to it? No. But it's there if I need it, just in case. A lot of my saves right now are like how to put a baby to sleep. So hopefully I'll go back to those at 2 in the morning next month. And then showcase. So creating a post summarizing your project or maybe a project that you hope to do, and how you would go about doing that, right? Um, And again, this showcases your expertise, but also your brand and the meaningful work that you're doing, and maybe your critical thinking skills as well. Okay. And then putting it all together. So this is kind of going all the way from the beginning, all the way back to the end. So I want you to start by Googling yourself, checking out what's out there, what's like the top 5 to 10 things that come up and the links that are there. Are they outdated? Are they positive? Do they contribute to the personal brand that you are trying to build? And then addressing any concerns, right? If your past employer still says that can reach out to you for X, Y, and Z, maybe you should reach out to your employer and say, "Hey, I don't work there anymore." Updating your bios. So, does your social media bio, your LinkedIn, your Instagram, your X, your threads, does that reflect your personal brand, right? I think my TikTok is like amateur gardener, social media manager, and crazy dog mom. And I think that's pretty accurate. But again, TikTok is a little bit more fun and playful and a little bit unhinged. My KCM social business account is a little bit more professional in terms of the services that I'm offering for my business. So, does your bios make sense for the account and also what you are trying to portray in this personal brand? And then posting monthly. Commit to sharing content regularly, whatever that is defined for you. I think monthly is a good way to start. And think about ways to talk about your research or your personal reflections or just your life in general. Um, and posting it regularly and engaging with the content and your content and people who are engaging with your content regularly as well. Um, so posting monthly but engaging daily. So instead of aimlessly scrolling, engage, right? When you find something that you think is amazing or hilarious or you've never thought about it that way, let that person know. Comment, share, DM the account. This is going to build rapport with the people and the brands, and just continuously doing that will continuously build this rapport. And they might, reach out to you. If they have something that they saw that thought of you based on conversations that you had in their DMs, right? So just engaging daily in some way, shape, or form with content that resonates with you is a very simple way to continue to build this personal brand. And through all of this, you're building this narrative, right? I am X who does X because Y, right? Um, and this is not a sentence that you need to put in your bios. Maybe this is a sentence that you put on a bulletin board in your office or something to remind you of the narrative that you're trying to build. But each post that you create or curate on your stories and your Instagram and your LinkedIn is a chance to continue to build that narrative and show what you are trying to portray. Okay. So, a little bit of homework based off of our conversation today is audit your social media, right? Go Google yourself, check out any of your past posts or past accounts maybe that you totally forgot you had and you just never logged into 3 years ago, but they're still alive. Do that, audit your social media, clean anything up, delete old accounts, create new ones, whatever that looks like for you. Follow 3 companies and then 3 leaders from those companies or employers from those companies in your field or like a fellowship that you're hoping to get or something like that. Follow 3 aspirations on social media. Um, and I want to challenge you even more to engage with them. Um, Start doing it. It's not as scary as it sounds. The more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get with it. And then lastly, post two intentional pieces of content before the semester ends. So intentional is up to you and what that means. My department does a professional development series where they have a content calendar for LinkedIn specifically to help us write about thought leadership on X whatever platforms that we want. So some of it is like books that we've read and why we chose to read them and what we learned from it, or why we chose to get out in nature, or just something to humanize us on LinkedIn specifically again, because LinkedIn is so professional and sometimes there's different ways of thinking about normal things you do in your life that can make an impact on social media. So posting two intentional pieces of content, whatever that might mean for you to help build this personal brand. And lastly, I want to leave you just with this little tidbit. So, your personal brand is what shows up when you're not in the room. Um, and I can't tell you how many times that I've been talking to friends or colleagues, and I said, have you seen this post? Right? Have you seen what so and so posted, or have you seen this reel, or whatever the content may be, and then I send it to them, right? But your personal brand and what you're posting and the content that you're creating or not creating is what shows up when you're not in the room and when people are talking about certain topics. Think of yourself as a leader in the field because you are a leader in what you are involved in. So talk about it. Talk about it online. There is no right or wrong. I mean, there's no wrong way to do this. So create the content. Don't be ashamed of it. It's easy once you start to get in the hang of it. And so that's all I have for you today. This is my contact information if you want to reach out and talk about social media. I love it. I love social media. So if you ever want to run ideas by me, just slide in my DMs. But thank you all.
Thank you so much, Kayla. That was wonderful. Um, any questions or comments? So I have
Taylor, sorry,
oh, go
Dr.
ahead.
Gus.
Go ahead.
I have a question. Well, yeah, kind of a question. Since a lot of like the political stuff affecting a lot of our work, like I always like have a hard time balancing like how to put out with without without like thinking in the future, like how is that going to come back and haunt me probably,
Sure. Yeah,
or
and
if yeah.
are you talking about politics in general, or more of the space where research is not being funded? Like, I guess what is like your biggest thought in thinking about how politics and how this just landscape in general is affecting what you might.
Yeah, a little bit of both, but mostly I've been like I for sure posted about my funding
Mhm.
getting um suspended um for a while. It got reinstated fortunately, but like during that whole time I was salty about it. Um so yeah, just like too much or like yeah.
Yeah. I think that's tricky, and I think like politics in general right now and social media in that landscape can be tricky too. So number one, I would think about like the culture in which you are employed. And you might know your employer better, obviously, than I do. So what would be, I don't want to say acceptable, right? But maybe what is low-hanging fruit that you could talk about and still putting content out there. So instead of being like, here's what I'm doing because my research got cut, right? I think that's kind of like maybe a little bit of a dagger to the heart to those who might see it, but also could be an interesting way to resonate with people who are going through something very similar, right? So that could be a way to post about, what you're going through as a researcher and not being funded and the political landscape without actually saying it. I have time for this now, or um, just like your lived experience as a researcher, maybe not so much the job of it, right? Just like the humanized part of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I feel like it gets tricky. I feel because, well, my research is in public health, and public health is very political.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where I feel like how however can I be or not?
Yeah. Um, the Johns Hopkins School of Public Health, I don't know if you follow them on
Oh, I love their account.
yeah. They do a really, really, really good job.
Yeah.
And they are allowed to be unhinged and they are allowed to be authentic in that way.
Mhm.
Um, which is interesting too in this landscape, especially with the name of Johns Hopkins, but we're gonna leave that alone. But I think, you know, paying attention to the content that's already out there and then maybe framing it a little bit differently. There's a big conversation in content creators in general of like nobody really thinks of their own content. They kind of just borrow from other people, which I think is not false. We see something online, we're like, I can spin this to my life or the work that I do.
Right.
So think of it like that maybe too. Yeah,
Right. Yeah, no, that was helpful. Thank you.
sure.
I just started following them. That's great. Thanks. Yeah, well, great. I think that was kind of a little bit of my question too, is like,
Okay.
how to, because I definitely come from that kind of older school kind of mentality of like, I'm hesitant to post anything because I don't want it to come back to bite me or,
Sure.
and so this is really a very interesting approach, and I really appreciate your thoughts on this.
Yeah. And I think, if it seems scary to post and put your own thoughts out there, maybe start with the engaging piece, right?
Mhm.
Maybe start with engaging with others' content. And it could, start low and slow, right? Like a fire emoji, clap the hands, like loved how you talked about that in that specific way, instead of being like, I totally disagree with you. You're wrong. Like the research does, like instead of going balls to the walls in the comment section, you could start a little lighter with engagements. Um, I get the caution, and I think the longer I've been in this realm, my motto, whether right or wrong, has been to ask for forgiveness instead of permission. Because I think once it's out there in the world, and I do it with the content through Johns Hopkins as well, the name of the game in social media is like causing a buzz, right? Um, getting your name out there in front of whoever it may be, but it is causing a buzz, it is causing a stir, and it is getting people to pay attention to your content. So that can be done in several different ways. And I think social media is so subjective that people can agree with how you do things, and then people cannot agree. Some people are going to love it, and some people are not. So it's maybe also think like, who do you want your audience to be? Do you want it to be um, professionals and leaders and jobs, or do you want it to be students because maybe you're looking for students to reach out to you and be a mentor or something like that. So I think it's also, who do you want your audience to be and how are you messaging to that audience too?
Right. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to share this last slide. Bear with me. And there we go. Doesn't matter. So here we go. So thank you again for attending today. Thank you so much, Kayla. This is really interesting and thoughtful presentation. Really enjoyed it. You'll be getting an email, those of you who have attended for the evaluation, and so we always appreciate when you complete that. Excuse me. And our next and final webinar for the calendar year will be on December 3rd. So for those of you who are on our listserv, you'll see more information coming through about that. And we'll be, once again, finishing out this block of social media branding with a presentation by Julian Gutierrez. So thank you all so much for coming today, and enjoy the rest of your day. And Kayla, best of luck with the baby.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.